This is my 3D printer. So far, I mostly used it to print stuff I downloaded from the internet, which is fine, but I want to actually make something useful. Something I can't just go out and buy. But to do that, I need to learn, and to learn, I need a project. This is my grandfather's old camera. He didn't exactly treat it like a museum piece. I found it buried in a basement, a little bit up, but still working. But what really caught my attention was this lens, the Jupiter 8. And I wanted to use it on my digital camera, a Fujifilm X-T200. This lens uses the Contax RF cave mount, and there is no adapter out there that fits it to Fuji's X mount. And it gets worse. When you take the lens off the original camera, the focusing mechanism stays inside the body, so the lens on its own can't focus at all. Which means I can't just make a simple adapter, it has to have a focusing mechanism built in. Sounds like a perfect project to learn 3D printing. So at this point, I did what any confused person with Wi-Fi would do. I asked ChatGPT to do some math for me. If I'd know a bit more about optics, that probably would have been enough. Marco said it probably needed to be much thicker, but since I knew the first version was just going to be a test, I wanted to try it anyway. So this is what I would call a before result. It's what I made before learning precision modeling, just using a subdivision technique I already knew. Surprisingly, it fit. But even fully unscrewed, I still couldn't get the lens far enough from the sensor to focus. I need to increase the distance to reach the proper focusing range. And then there were some other issues. As you can see, there are overhangs, no rotation stop, and the thread for adjusting focus was printed pretty poorly. So yeah, definitely a lot to improve. Let's get to work. Last week I took a short course on precision modeling in Blender, and I finally started learning how to model things the right way for 3D printing. This time I started over from scratch, but kept the overall structure pretty similar to the first version. To be honest, I didn't use the CAD add-on all that much, probably because I'm still not super confident with it, so I ended up modeling almost everything using Blender's built-in tools. I also used the Bolt Factory add-on to remake the threads. This time with a profile that's actually suitable for 3D printing. I fixed the overhang issues by keeping all unsupported angles under 45 degrees. And I added a rotation stop so the adapter doesn't just keep spinning when mounted. The print quality turned out surprisingly great. Fixing the overhangs was easier than I expected. But the rotation stop didn't work. The lens keeps spinning because the notch I designed wasn't deep enough. The little bump it's supposed to catch on couldn't lock in place. So using this adapter is basically impossible. I did test the focusing distance though, and it's not great. By making the adapter thicker, I accidentally pushed the lens too far from the sensor in its closest position. Now it can't reach infinity focus, though it can focus on objects that are fairly close. For the next version, I'll move the lens as close to the sensor as possible at its nearest position. That way I can find the minimum focusing distance and work from there. Let's do it! This time I didn't need to start completely from scratch, but I did have to strip away all the unnecessary geometry. I removed all the chamfers and deleted the thread. It's much easier to add those details at the end than deal with a dense mesh while making bigger changes. I also moved the lens deeper into the front section of the adapter, so now the front and back parts are aligned at the same level. To make the front section slide into the back section, I had to thin the walls, which isn't great for 3D printing, but we'll see if it holds up. After that, I re-added the thread, and I had to slightly increase the adapter's overall diameter to make everything fit. Finally, I added the chamfers again, the rotation stop, and a new grip ring to make it easier to handle and adjust the lens manually. Inside the slicer, I added brim ears to both parts of the adapter. In the second version, I only added them to the back section, and the front part ended up with imperfections, because it didn't stick evenly to the build plate. This time I made sure both parts have extra adhesion so they print cleanly and stay in place. Now it really looks like a finished product. With all the chamfers and grip ring details, it actually feels satisfying to hold. But the print still has some imperfections. I'm guessing that's because of the thin wall thickness. And unfortunately, I didn't hit the focusing range at all. The lens sits way too close to the sensor. But now I can finally measure the exact distance it should be. Since the front part doesn't need to sit that close to the sensor anymore, I can increase the wall thickness again, which should improve print quality. On the bright side, the rotation stop works perfectly this time. So one more round. The process this time was pretty much the same. Remove all the unnecessary elements, increase the wall thickness, increase the adapter thickness, and add a new thread. But during modeling, I decided to add one more thing. You might have noticed that the filter thread on the lens is damaged. Since the lens already sits deep enough inside the adapter, I figured why not to add a new thread to the front of the adapter itself. That way I can still use filters with this lens. So that's what I did. Then I added the chamfers and grip ring details again and sent it off to print. Let's start with the good news. The focus works and the rotation stop still works. And that's great. But there were still some printing imperfections. Turns out the wall thickness wasn't the problem. I had increased the adapter's diameter, which meant the 4 brim ears I used before weren't enough to hold it firmly during printing. So I reprinted the exact same model, this time with 8 brim ears on each part. And now it's solid. Everything works and it looks great. And before I show you a few shots I took using this lens on my digital camera, go ahead and like this video if you find my brain torture entertaining. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.